What if one of the greatest acts of leadership was deciding that your family's health story was not going to be written by limitation? Because for millions of families navigating food allergies, intolerances, celiac disease, and chronic health conditions, food isn't just nourishment, it is survival, it's empowerment, and it can feel really limiting when you go into a restaurant and everybody else is looking at what you maybe possibly can eat. If you've ever felt like the system of food may have not been built for you, or you've ever had to advocate for your child's health or your own body or your family's well being, or if you've ever realized that the answers weren't going to come from outside authorities, but from your willingness to take radical responsibility, then today's conversation is going to be incredibly empowering. The question we're exploring today is, how do you reclaim your power when the world tells you that your health challenges, your food restrictions, or disabilities should make your life smaller and more restricted? How can you transform those challenges into a movement that empowers thousands of other families? Today's guest is the extraordinary Kathlena, known around the world as the Allergy Chef. Kathlena has dedicated her life to empowering people with restricted diets and disabilities, especially children, helping families navigate complex health conditions like food allergies, intolerances, celiac disease with clarity, confidence, and practical solutions. And let me tell you, her beef tallow cookie recipe looks phenomenal. She is also a fierce advocate for helping people understand that even if you have an allergy, you still have agency, even when navigating difficult health conditions. Through her cookbooks, educational resources, her powerful online platform, The Allergy Chef, she teaches families how to take back control of their kitchens, their health, and their future. And now Kathlena is expanding that mission even further, working toward launching a fully produced television or streaming show that brings this message of empowerment to a global audience. Because at the heart of her work, there is a simple but profound truth. You have the power to live your wildest dreams, no matter what society, circumstances, or allergies you're allergic to. And you have the power to see the challenges of your life, whether health, wealth, family, or circumstances, and and tackle them without giving away your power. When everyday people reclaim their power, that ripple effect doesn't just transform individuals, it transforms families, communities, and ultimately the world. And that is what we here at the Crown Yourself podcast are here to do. I am Kimberly Spencer, your high performance coach and subconscious success strategist, ready to dive into another episode and a conversation about resilience, responsibility, and what it truly means to reclaim your power in your home, in your refrigerator, and in your garden. Stick around. And if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the Crown Yourself podcast so you never miss a conversation like the one we're having today. Let's dive in. Welcome to the show.
Can I just tell you, I'm over here smiling like a goofball. Like, you know what? She's my new hype girl. We're officially besties, and you're my hype girl. I love it. Like, I'm
Yes.
always the hype girl for everybody else. And I can't say I've ever had a hype girl, like, until right now. Like, the way you were describing stuff, and I'm like, she gets me, and she's hyping it up. I love this. This is great. Do you remember those old shows where they would have like the dude with the boombox and he would play his own theme song and he would walk around with it? Like, it was like a joke thing.
Yeah,
I'm gonna put you on a boombox,
that's
and I'll just
cool.
walk around and people will hear, like, the thing, like, it's
Here's
great.
the thing. Here's what I do.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm in the business of raising hype girls. I mean, I have 2 boys, they're the hype boys, but after having my daughter, I was just like, "We are doing hype girl." Like, we are gonna double down on this, on
Yeah,
celebrating everyone in their reign as we all rise together.
I love it. You know what? You should just change your name to Hype Girl. Like, it fits you. Like, you are a hype girl. I love it. I love it, love it, love it, and it's so fun to be on this end of it because, like I said, like, I've always been everybody else's hype person, so to now experience it, now I get why other people like when I do it. I'm like, "Oh, that was cool. That was so
Well,
cool."
you've been a champion for so many people with food allergies, with intolerances, many who have been gaslit by the medical industry or shamed for their food industry. I mean, I remember sitting at the table, this was back when I was a vegan, and my family was trying to figure out like what to feed me. And I was like, I can eat vegetables. But, like, I remember sitting down for Thanksgiving, and we had a conversation about what I ate and what I didn't eat, and the whole meal, I was literally sat there and I didn't complain, but I was just like, "I'm just okay. None of this was what we discussed, and I'm gonna go and just get us some sticks of celery, and that's just what Thanksgiving's gonna be, is celery and carrots."
It hurts to know that you had the conversation in advance and then it didn't pan out. Do you know what I mean? Because like, it's
Yeah,
one thing like, I always tell people you should expect, like, reasonable accommodation, right? Like, obviously, don't go to someone's house unannounced with a whole host of things you can't have and be like, "I'm here, serve me dinner," right? Like, that's just unreasonable. And to also, like, respect when people say no in the sense of, I've had to explain this to people. Sometimes people say no because they want to keep you safe, right? Obviously, that wasn't your experience, but some people do experience that. And so, in fact, I have some great friends where, I'll come to visit their house and they'll say something like, "I'd offer you something to eat, but I don't want to kill you, so just come on in." Like that's how they say it, and it's so wonderful. I have another friend. She actually flat out won't let me in her house. She's like, "You can't come in," but we can sit. Like she has this little patio area set up where we always sit and chat. Because her whole thing is like, my house is covered in stuff that you are anaphylactically allergic to, and I genuinely fear you might die in my house, so you don't get to come in. Like, and it's a kind of a joke between us, and we always have a laugh. But, there are some people who care so much that they say no, right? But to have the conversation and be like, "We got you. We got this figured out." And then when it happens, they're like, "No, we don't
I
got
missed the
you."
plot on that one.
Yeah, like that just feels like so not nice. Like, I don't know what went wrong, you know?
I think people sometimes get in their heads and their programming takes over of what their expectations are or things like that. I mean, what was interesting is down the road that so I was a vegan for 6 years and that was part of my eating disorder recovery. And from there I then eliminated gluten because I was like, what is this all this bloat and all this, crankiness and moodiness. Once I eliminated gluten, I was like, "What the hell do I eat?" And
Mm.
then I added meat back in. I was like, "Oh, that's what I was missing in my life." But gluten stayed a hell no because I started to recognize the difference in my body, specifically in my brain fog and my thoughts when I would consume gluten. Now we could talk about the food system and all the glyphosate and all the chemicals that are sprayed on gluten, but for the most part, it's like, when you started doing the work as the allergy chef, what was the moment where you realized, like, this wasn't just about food? This is really about empowering people, empowering families to really reclaim their power over food. I mean, because for me, that
Mm.
was my journey was when I started to, like, realize, "Oh, I can listen to my body and what she needs and what she really doesn't need."
Actually, I think it started long before that. You know when it started? When I was born.
Ah,
I was born a skeptic, and people think I joke when I say that. I'm like, "No, you don't get it." From day 1, I was an absolute skeptic. And then I grew up in a very abusive household. I think when you grow up in an abusive home, you usually get one of 2 types of people. The people who shut down and they just become a victim and it is what it is, and my heart goes out to them. And then you've got the people like me who, like, with all the drive in the world, who say, "No, no, no. This is not how it's gonna be." And they make it out and they have all this drive and all these different passions and whatever the case may be, right?
my friend.
Um, right? And so I think, I've never not been the kind of person who has what I like to call polite spite. I didn't know this growing up, and I didn't learn this until a few years ago. Apparently, a lot of the way that my mind works is actually spiteful. I'm very much one of those people of don't tell me what I can't do. I'm going to do it anyway, just to prove you wrong. Right. It's like when you grow up and someone constantly tells you, you're a failure and you're never going to be anything, you're never going to amount to anything, you're this, you're that, and the other. And I'm sitting there going, like, quietly just taking it because, I mean, you know how it is. You say anything and you take a beat down for saying anything. So you just keep quiet. But in your head, you're like, no, you're so wrong. I'm going to prove you so wrong. I can't wait for you to eat your own words. You're going to eat dirt. Like in your head, you're hyping yourself up. And you're like, no, 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 this is not how it's going down. I'm going to choose how this goes down. Right. I have always, for whatever circumstance I find myself in, always had the spirit of, "No, no, no. we're gonna like we're gonna knock this out of the park. A plus, right? And I am an overachiever by nature, so I think that kind of plays into it as well, right? So there was never a definitive moment in doing the work that I do where I said, "Oh, I'm gonna teach people like how to be empowered, blah blah, all the things." I think even before I did the Allergy Chef officially, so I was working, so I've got 4 kids, they're not biologically mine. They were in an abusive situation, and it was one of those things where I could either walk away or I could raise 4 kids, and it was like me being a baby raising babies. So I was a baby raising babies, okay? And the first year I had all 4 of them, combined, it was more than 400 doctor's appointments. Year 2, guess how many doctor's appointments? Actually, it was probably like year 3, but guess how many?
800?
4. I took radical responsibility. I basically got my own little independent PhD from the school of the internet. And the thing is, when you have a higher IQ and you're very driven, it's easy, like focus on those quotes, to do this sort of thing. So I dove in. I dove in so hard. I learned everything about food, medicine, agriculture, ins, outs, ups, downs, just everything. And I applied it all. And I just got these kids moving in the right direction, right? And so, just in telling you that, I bet you can tell that I am a firm believer in individuals taking their power. I don't care what some doctor tells you. They tried to misdiagnose 2 of my kids with ADHD, which I knew, like, I was like, this is a bunch of nonsense, right? And I'm not saying that ADHD, ADD is not real. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is it's a well overused diagnosis, kind of
Uh-huh.
like with, fibromyalgia or IBD. Like, we just slap these catch-all diagnoses on people instead of getting to the root cause. And I'm like, hold on. Why wouldn't you want to get to the root cause and actually fix it? Because my kid was not born deficient in these pills. What's actually going
Yeah.
on? Well, with both of my kids, it was food. They needed completely different approaches to food, but with both of them, it was food. For the youngest, how I found out, I think, is what most parents would consider very scary. So he was 5 when this happened. Yeah, I think he would have been 5. So he comes up to me and he goes, "My heart hurts." And I was like, "Poor thing, come here." And I thought he just needed a hug, right? So I'm giving this kid a hug and I'm like, "Come here, do you want to lay down with me?" So he lays down next to me. And when I put my hand on his chest, his heart was literally punching my hand. And I kind of like snapped my hand back out of shock. And I was like, and I look at him and I'm like, "Your heart hurts." And he's like, "Yeah, that's what I just told you." Like I'm the dummy in the room, right? 'Cause
Leave
in
it to
my
a kid,
I
right?
I kind of was the dummy in the room in that moment. What's funny about him is he's the kid that's, like, hyper in tune with himself. So when he was younger, "Don't jump on the bed." You always tell kids that. And he was the kid who would jump on the bed. And one day, he falls off the bed and comes up to me crying. He's like, "I broke my collar." This kid is telling me he broke his collarbone, and I'm like, "No, you didn't." And I'm telling him, "No, no, no." And he won't stop crying, and I'm like, "Okay, fine, fine, like, we'll go to emergency." Sure enough, kid had broke his collarbone. At, like, 4 and a half, he knew he was so in tune with himself, he knew he had broken his collarbone, right? So when he
I'm
told
not
me
surprised.
yeah. So when he told me his heart hurt, oh, he was very in tune with himself, and he knew. And so when I felt that, I was like, "Geez," like and the thing is so there are lots of different, like, pill regimens they put people on for ADHD. I think there's a misconception because I thought this, misthought this going into it. Like, there was only, like, one kind of pill that they'll put people on. There's a whole bunch of pills that they pull from. In his case, they put him on a heart medication, okay? A 5-year-old. And I had to, like, measure his dose down to, like, the micrograms or something weird like that. Like, it was wild. No, it jacked up his heart. And so it happened the first time, and I was like, "Oh my goodness, like, this is not okay." It happened a second time, and I was like, "No, I have to get this kid off these pills. I'll do whatever it takes because this is not happening a third time, not on my watch." And through a series of events with him, I had him off that medication probably within a couple of months after that, mainly because he got in trouble. And we were living in a time where so I was basically, their biological mother did a lot of bad things. I'm not gonna get into all that. But in taking over their care, like, kids need vegetables, right? Like, they just need vegetables. And so I had to figure out how to get these kids who did not eat vegetables, like, they literally all they knew was hyper ultra processed foods. I
Mm.
kid you not. Like ultra hyper processed foods. That's all they knew. And so I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna do what you're not supposed to do. I'm gonna bribe my kids to get them to eat vegetables. So I told them they could have dessert every single night, and all they had to do was take one bite of the vegetables. They were all on board. They were sold. They were like, wait, we get dessert every night. Mind you, they're like organic desserts, better for you, low sugar.
Mhm.
I'm like, I'm gaming these kids, but still they had dessert every night, right? And some nights it was ice cream, which was really just a thick smoothie served on a low sugar ice cream cone, and I'd call it ice cream, and they were like all for it. Okay. So I'm gaming the system here. And so they get dessert every
I
night.
get what you're putting down, mama.
Yeah, right? So they get dessert every night. All you had to do was take one bite of the food. That was it. You didn't even have to like it. And so like over time, I tapered things off where it was like, now you've got to eat the actual portion of the veg to get the dessert. You don't have to eat anything else on your plate, only the veg to get the dessert, right? And then it became like dessert was only served like 3 nights a week. And then I started putting vegetables in the desserts as well. Like I had this whole roadmap to getting them to eat better. Like, and it worked brilliantly, let me tell you. So back to this kid. So he gets himself into trouble in the midst of this journey. And one night, dinner's served, and he's doing what he's always doing, getting himself into trouble. And their father, he and I were friends. We never romantically involved or anything, but he got so mad. He slams his hand down on the table. And he's like, "That's it. You don't get dessert for 30 days." And all the other kids, they were all like, "Oh," like it was literally like a death sentence to these kids. Like, no dessert. I kid you not when I tell you this. 2 weeks later, he was a completely different person. All my kids were in private school, and one of the other families, they actually wanted to file a restraining order against him because he was so misbehaved. And I guess like he had attacked their kid at school and it was like this whole thing. He went from being that because I need you to understand like the level of
Yeah.
like crazy.
Extreme.
Mind you, he's 5 years old at this
Yeah.
extreme level. Okay. 2 weeks later, perfectly behaved child. Like perfectly behaved child. And I'm like, clearly somebody's learned their lesson, right? That's what I'm thinking. 2 weeks later, he finally gets dessert back, and it's a big deal. Everybody thinks it's so great. He gets his dessert back because we're still on this vegetable train.
Mhm.
2 bites of dessert. He gets up from the table, walks over to the couch, jumps, and throws himself against the wall. He's literally throwing himself against the wall.
His body couldn't process sugar.
His body could not process sugar, and that's how we found out. He got in trouble, lost his sugar, got his sugar back, and literally lost his mind in real time. And from that moment forward, he was known as Mr. Low No Sugar. And I went on another deep dive on all things food and all things food systems and all the things. So that was the definitive moment where it was like everything's going to be 100% organic, no food dyes, no blah, 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 like all the things. Not only did his health change, everybody's health changed. They were all diagnosed with asthma. Suddenly, the asthma was gone, right? Like everything that went wrong, well,
Mhm.
almost everything, just turned around. And all of this was before I was officially known as the Allergy Chef. So, all of that to say, when did it happen? It happened a long time ago because I have always been this kind of person who defies what the world will tell you. Even when I was a kid, so when you and I were kids, because I'm pretty sure we're about the same age, it was all about the radio. And I would literally be like, "Can we turn the radio off, please? I refuse to let some, disc jockey tell me what to think and tell me what's popular. I would rather go to a music store and find it for myself." Right? Like, I am very much a do not tell me. Like, you can present me with facts and information and I can assimilate it and, come up with my own conclusions, but you will not think for me. Right, and
Mhm.
I think that's part of what's wrong with society today, and it's one of those many things that I try to encourage people to do. It's like, I don't care how many initials are after somebody's name. They're not you. You are the expert in you. They don't live in your body 24/7, so why would you give up your power to them? Think of
Mhm.
them as more of like a consultant to your health. You walk in with the questions. And remember, you pay their bills, hire and fire as you see fit. So like people getting stuck in this mindset like, oh, it's a white coat doctor with, 13 initials. I must do whatever they say. I mean, you can go that route or you can see it as these are suggestions and you need to confirm if they're actually for you.
Yeah. You're preaching to the choir on this one. The one
Yeah.
who had a conversation with my dad's doctor when he was in the hospital, and I said, "Why are they putting him on remdesivir?" I said, "I'm pretty sure he has pneumonia like he's had for the past 5 years," and they said, "Well, nope." Slapped him on a ventilator, put him on remdesivir, and I said, "Here's the medical studies that actually show that creates kidney failure," and then suddenly, "Oh my gosh, his kidneys were failing," and he died 2 weeks later.
What? That's terrible.
And
That's
it's like
terrible because it was preventable.
preventable, yeah, and it's I think the hard part is, like, there are doctors, and then there are doctors. Like, and finding and sourcing the ones that actually are continuing their education, that are seeking nutritional guidance. When I discovered that the doctors that most Western medical schools only require, like a fourth of medical schools actually only require a semester in nutrition, I was like, what are we doing here?
You know?
I think that's the
Yeah.
big question. Our culture tends to outsource health decisions to institutions, to people. I think we have savior complex so badly, looking for somebody else to have the answers for us, to save us and rescue us. When we stop outsourcing our power, what does that actually look like for a family in everyday life?
Okay, I'm gonna answer your question, but I wanna touch on something you just said because I think it's so important that we expand on that for people listening. You said we outsource our power to institutions, but I think people need to understand you're not outsourcing your power to an institution. You are outsourcing your power to a handful of greedy corporations that then fund the education for these institutions. So not only do they not require nutritional training, right? When you go through the textbook at med school, you start to follow the money and you start to quickly see who's funding all of this, and then it all starts to click into place. Why do they always give you a pill for every ill? Because if you read their textbook, it's about, well, if you see this, give this pill. If you see this, give this pill. If you see this, give this pill. And we literally indoctrinate and brainwash these well meaning people for 7 years, and we call it medicine, right? You are outsourcing your power to someone who, quite frankly, if they aren't doing a lot of work on their own independently, depending on the type of person you are, you might know more than them. And that's kind of crazy when you think about it, right? So it's so important that you be very picky and choosy about who you accept the information from. Now, obviously, that is said with a grain of salt because, as I like to tell people, Western medicine is great for emergencies and like trauma, right? Like if you
Mhm.
break your arm, put down the essential oils, Jan, and go get some help, right? Like, come on, girl. You broke your arm. Get out of here. You're not going to diffuse your way out
Arnica's
of that.
not going to help this.
Yeah, thank you, right?
It'll
It's
help
not.
for the post rehab, but like, you're not going to arnica your bones back together.
Exactly. Like there are so many fantastic things that Western medicine can do, right? We look at the invention of insulin. Do you know how many people would be dead without insulin? I'm not even talking type 2. Let's talk about type 1, uh, you know, autoimmune disorder, juvenile diabetes, the kind of diabetes that's not corrected through diet and lifestyle. So many people would be dead without that invention, right? Western medicine, sometimes it gets it really right. But
Mhm.
then if you have a chronic health condition, it gets it really wrong. So it's really important that depending on your individual situation, you cherry pick, like just really cherry pick. And remember, you're paying for it. You're paying for it through your time, through your energy, through your body, and with your money. So make it worth your while. Now, to your question, what does it look like in everyday life? I think the first real tangible step is just educating yourself, right? So let's say a doctor diagnoses you with something. Whether or not the diagnosis is correct, that's not the question. It's about you educating yourself to the fullest extent on whatever that diagnosis is and understanding whether or not that really applies to you, right? Because it's really easy to go into a doctor, list out your symptoms, and if they specialize in whatever your symptoms are, they're going to go, you have what I specialize in. This is how we treat it. Now, I can tell you this from firsthand experience. Because I have more than 250 different symptoms from food, which is pretty unheard of, I actually mimic everything from cancers to Raynaud's to Job's disease and everything in between. Rare, not rare, I mimic all of them. You could take me to pretty much any specialist and they'll tell you I have their disease. Okay. So
Wow.
I'm telling you from firsthand experience, understand what you're being diagnosed with. And because you have the everyday information, like, does it really track? Right. If you're not sure, start keeping a food journal. Start there. A detailed food journal tracks food, sleep, water, all of it. And over time, you start to see patterns emerge, right? The next thing to do that's tangible is to order every test under the sun. See, a lot of people like to guess, or they see a commercial for something, or they see some like, cute runner, and they're like, oh, she takes vitamin B12. I want to be a cute runner too, so I'll take vitamin B12. And you might not even need B12, right? You don't want to do any guesswork when it comes to this stuff. So you order all the tests, the basics, the extreme tests, the stool tests, the 1 day and the 3 day, the oats test, the just every test, and you assess. Once you've assessed, you can start to say, oh, I do need the B12 like the cute runner girl. Or you might learn you're deficient in something completely different. Or you might learn you're not deficient in anything major, but you have a case of heavy metal poisoning, right? Like you can learn so much from these tests. That's like the biggest step. From there, it's just taking control and taking your power back based on what you learn about yourself, right? If you learn that, I don't know, you've got like gut dysbiosis, work on correcting it and recognize that it's not going to happen overnight. You didn't get into this boat overnight. You're not going to get out of this boat overnight. It's going to take you years. It took me 7 years to go from stage 4, like crazy gut health, down to stage 1. Stage 4 is like the worst it can get. Like I was
Yeah.
literally like redlining, worst you could possibly be. Took 7 years to get down to normal. And that's someone like me who understands food, blah, 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 the whole system, right? So if someone like me who understands it truly inherently took 7 years, now I took longer than the average person because I have so many food allergies. I can't just eat my way to better health or supplement my way to better health, right? But again, you're not getting out of this overnight. So don't be a quitter, right? Don't be like, oh, it's been 2 weeks. Okay, so you got into this problem in 2 weeks? No, you
Mhm.
didn't. Another thing to keep in mind too, there was this doctor I was listening to once, great speaker. And he had this very profound point that's stuck with me for years. He said, the younger you are when a problem starts and the longer it goes undiagnosed, the higher the chances of it being permanent. Let that sink in. I know for me, there are certain things that are just permanent. I'll never get out of it, no matter how hard I work at it. And I've been working at it for a long time. So, depending on how old you are, how long this has been going on for, how long the symptoms have persisted for, right? Think of your body as, I don't know, what's a good analogy here? Like, do you know like those really smooth stones, right?
Yeah,
They
like a
might
river
start off like,
rock?
yeah, like a river rock. They might start off really rough, and over time they smoothen out, right? They don't go back to being rough, they just stay smooth. Your symptoms, your body, it's kind of like that. You want to be as rough as possible, but these symptoms, they essentially work you down over time. They make you really smooth. The smoother you are, the worse it gets. And you can't unsmooth it. You're smooth. That's it. You're done. There are things you can do to kind of like make up for it. You can hang around with rough rocks and see if they rub off on you, right? Like you can do other things, but there are just certain things that won't get fixed. So that's why I think it's so important. And it's also why I advocate for children so much as well, because being an undiagnosed child, I have to live with the forever consequences of other people's incompetence. That makes me angry. Makes me so angry. I don't know about you, but as a kid, I hated group projects because I was the only one who would like do really hard work. So I always got bogged. Yeah, I was, especially in high school. So I was like advanced placement for everything. So I was literally like the youngest kid, and with all these other like literal, I was like 14. They were all 17, pushing 18, and I'm doing all the work. I'm like, no, this is not working for me. I do not like this. Right. I do not like group projects. And that's kind of what it feels like sometimes, right? Like you're trying to get things done and it's not working for you. So when I see people not taking care of their children and not dealing with their health issues, it makes me, I don't even want to say irrationally angry. I think it's rational anger because I've lived through it. Because
Mm.
I feel like I'm the one in the group project who got the short end of the stick. All these other people came in and they said, whatever, right? And I'm the one who has to live with it now. Me. And that makes me angry, which is why I'm always telling people like, no, no, no. Take responsibility for yourself and your household. Do not take no for an answer. Do not accept whatever. No. Grab it by the horns and just take it, you know? It's like when I was a teenager, I was on a trip, halfway across the country, and on the way back, I essentially had the equivalent of a 36-hour seizure. It was a big deal. And basically, the pilot was on standby to make emergency landing kind of level a big deal. They had like an ambulance on the tarmac when we landed. Literally, it was a medical emergency. Okay. So I'm taken to hospital and specialist after specialist comes in. What happened? This is what I tell them. I kid you not. I ate the food and this started. This happened. Great. We're going to order these scans and these tests. Next one comes in. What happened? I ate the food. This happened. Great. We're going to do this. Guess what kind of test they never ordered?
An allergy test?
An allergy test. Now, if some kid is telling you, I ate the food and this happened, you think maybe, just maybe, teeny tiny chance that maybe a food allergy test is in order. And the thing is, it's not like the word allergy was um, foreign to my medical chart, right? I grew up with such severe environmental allergies. Like, if you were just to, like, touch a blade of grass to me, my whole body would just like flip out. Okay. Like, I was severely allergic to a lot of things as a kid. So, someone read that chart and saw the word allergy, heard me say, I ate this food and this happened. And not a single one of them said, food allergy test. Now, if that doesn't show you a level of incompetence, I don't know what will. And that's why I tell people, do not give your power away, right? Like, you have to push back sometimes. Because if I knew now what I knew back then, I would have walked into that emergency room right off the gurney and said, hit me with a food allergy test. That's where we're starting, right? It's like a no-brainer. And
Mhm.
then I would have directed them to all the other tests I wanted because I have a list. I know what I want, right? But these are people who went to medical school for years upon years, had these degrees, had these initials, but, and I don't fault them for it, but they were making choices based on what they learned in a textbook. It's as simple as that, right? Not through learned experience. I mean, some doctors are better, right? If they have
Mhm.
that physical learned experience and then like they kind of connect with you, they're like, oh, because I've experienced this firsthand, I know what to look for. But if they don't have that, it doesn't help, right? Or if they're
Yeah.
so far into their speciality that they can't think outside of that box, it doesn't really help you if you're not inside their world, you know? I think they're like you said, there are doctors and then there are doctors, and you
Mhm.
have to find the right ones, you know?
It's like telling someone who only can see blue to look at red.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
that all they can see is blue. If I tell you, like, "Go look for blue," and if you've been studying blue and looking at blue for years and years and years and only looking for blue and all the different shades of blue, if I say, "Okay, open your eyes and look at red," you're gonna be like, "I don't know where any red is." Like, what is red? Like, the purple curtains, those are like a shade of blue. There's, like, what red? So,
Yeah.
and I I so deeply empathize with the experience. I had a similar experience one time of symptomology mimicking, not through food allergy. My dad was exhibiting signs of a stroke in 2016, and he was hours and just kind of babbling, and I was like, "What is going on?" And I was like, "This is not like, he is not okay." And I took him to the ER, and the ER was like, "Oh my gosh, he's totally having it's a stroke, like, let's get all the tests." And I said, "Can you test him for alcohol?" My dad had been an alcoholic for 30 years, and he'd said he was sober. And it was just my intuitive nudge of like, "Can you just test him?" Everyone was like, "No, no, 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 he hasn't been drinking. No, he's been sober for years." And I was like, "Can you just test him?" It turns out he was drunk as a skunk and still drunk after driving home 3 hours later. When you have those nudges and, like, you have history, and I think that you're the greatest advocate for your body. You're always gonna be the greatest advocate for yourself. I remember it when I was in, I had bad PMDD and periods and all that, probably because my diet was crap in high school, and I went to this gynecologist, and I said, "I can track it. I have massive crushing depression 2 weeks out of the month. I can track it. I know exactly when it hits." And he said, "Great, let's put you on Prozac." And I was like, "Hold up, like, I don't need it for the other 2 weeks. The other 2 weeks, I'm pretty spot on, but what's happening?" And that experience opened my eyes to start exploring other avenues because I was like, maybe it's diet. Maybe it's the fact that I was bulimic. Maybe it's the fact that I had a whole bunch of other issues or trauma that created that depression. Like, what else is there? And when we approach something functionally to look beyond the narrow mind, like, I'm all for specialists, and I understand the value of specialists, like, in certain circumstances, and specialists get paid a lot more than the general practitioners. But at the same time, we have to look at when you're so focused only on your specialty, how do you branch out into looking at the holistic picture of the human body? Not just allergies, but also their relationships, their emotions, how they eat their food. I'm curious with your kids, what have you studied any of the work of Kash Khan?
I don't think I have.
He was one of our clients in our sister company, Communication Queens, and he talks a lot about biological parenting in the form of using DNA testing to see sugar levels, natural things that are like in your genome of like this is how you're designed. He actually helped with supporting one of his, I think it was his kid, or I think it was one of his children with a sugar his body just didn't process sugar and it didn't process carbs in the same way as his other kid. And behavioral issues and homework issues suddenly, as soon as he made certain changes based on DNA, amazing. It was transformative.
Yeah. I have heard of that style of medical work. My kids actually had something like that done once because a friend of ours over in South Korea, she's a doctor, and that's like one of the things she specializes in. And yeah, it's like a random connection. The test results were very, very interesting. It didn't get into like the nutritional side of things though. It
Mhm.
was more about like addiction, like different diseases, that sort of stuff. So I can't say that I've like worked on that element of things. Could there be something there? Yes, in the sense of like within their blood family, like one of their grandfathers has a problem and their other like I knew of certain issues. And
Mhm.
so I know that that was always in the back of my mind like I wonder if this could be related to this other thing, you know, or sometimes just knowing that someone else had it kind of makes you feel a little bit better about what you're doing because it's like, you know what, if there's a genetic component at play here, then I'm on the right track, right? I think too, you know, going back to the idea of doctors, because
Mhm.
something you said kind of made me think about this. I think some of the best doctors, honestly, are the ones who are really straight with you and who say things like, I don't know. When a doctor says, I don't know, makes me listen a lot harder.
Yeah.
With one of my kids, he was misdiagnosed with ADD, put on medication that didn't help. And after a while, I was like, we're done. Especially after the heart issue with the other kid. I was like, we're out. Like,
Oof.
we are not
So
doing this.
scary.
Yeah, and so I had taken him to a different specialist. Mind you, this whole time, like, we were working with, like, brain doctors and all these different people, like, in holistic like, settings, right? Trying to work on all sorts of things, emotional health, well-being, all the things. Like, I was hitting all like, whack-a-mole. I was hitting all of them, right? And so we go through, like, all of the assessments, and finally, you know, we have the sit down, we meet with them, and they said, "Here's the bottom line," because at this point, they were trying to figure out is it possible that maybe he's autistic, like really high functioning autistic? Which I never thought he was, but he had a lot of classic symptoms. And they said to me, we are hesitant to say that he is any form of autistic or on the spectrum at all. And the reason why is because you've given us a really good, thorough history of what his biological mother did to him. We cannot definitively say if what he is expressing is trauma from what she did or him being on the spectrum. And we would hate to say that he's autistic and put you on that path when the reality is you were already on the right path with everything else you were doing. So we kind of want you to keep doing what you're doing. And if nothing ever clears up, you know, come back in a few years and we'll redo everything and we'll figure out at that point, maybe he is, maybe he isn't. And I was
Mhm.
like, thank you. That's awesome. You guys were so honest. And I kept doing what I was doing and, you know, things kept getting better and we never went back. But they could have just as easily sold me a bill of goods and been like, "Oh my goodness, we tested this one thing over here. He's totally autistic." And they could have put me on a path that honestly, I might have believed. 'Cause I might have said, "Okay, like, I believe you,"
Yeah.
because it kind of all makes sense based on all the other things I've been doing, right? So I think the most helpful doctors are the ones who tell you they don't know, and even more helpful if they can tell you something like, "I don't know, but I'm gonna help you find out." Because I had one of those doctors in my corner. That's how I ended up getting my diagnosis. Believe it or not, he was a chiropractor, a friend who was a chiropractor.
No way.
Because he knew how sick I was. He knew I could barely leave the house. Like, I got to the point where if you were to barely touch me, I was in extreme severe pain, right? Like, inflammation response way off the charts. Mind you, I'm still raising 4 kids, trying to do it all. It was extremely difficult. And he just says offhand one day, "I wonder if it's gluten." This is, like, before gluten was, like, well known. And I was like, "Oh, that's a good question." So I went and ordered every test under the sun. I didn't have health insurance, so I was like, "Let me just do everything myself." So I ordered everything. And I was like, "Dude, you would not believe what I found." And so we just kinda go down this rabbit hole together, and he's like I would get certain things ordered, and he'd be like, "I have no idea, but I know this specialist out in the city. Let me contact him, and I think he might know a guy, and I think between the 3 of us, we might know the answer," right? Like, and that's how some of it got worked out is this dude knew a dude, and that dude knew a dude, and that dude knew a dude, and everybody just kinda knew somebody, and I just kept getting passed around to everybody who knew somebody, and all these different specialists were taking a look, and all of them would say, "This is the worst case I've ever seen. I've never seen anybody as bad as you," and I'm like, "Gee, thanks. Do you know what's wrong with me?" Right? And so it was quite the journey, but he will always have a special place in my heart because he was just like, "I have no idea what's wrong with you, but we're gonna figure this out together." And he stuck with me, you know, he'd be like, "Did you learn anything new?" You know, like and he would just like, we would shoot the breeze and talk medicine and talk all these things, you know, and I think when you can find someone like that, oh my goodness, hold on to them. They're a gem.
Yeah, I think the power of so like that's our pediatrician for my kids. Like that is he is allopathic, functional, homeopathic, trained, constantly studying and I'm like I love the fact that there are options. And I think that that's something that so many parents especially miss out on because of location or because
Mm,
of their circumstances or their health insurance, which I think is just an absolute crying shame, but I love the fact that you got a PhD in the internet because because that like now that plus AI, like the amount of and you got to be careful with the AI because it can totally send misdiagnoses and whatnot, but there's such a wealth of resources that you have to be able to just be curious. And I think a
mm.
lot of our systems growing up maybe shamed it, like, we had to have the right answer, we couldn't be curious in the path to, like, discover what another potential answer could be, and when we can really leverage curiosity, especially when it comes to our health or our wealth or our businesses or our whatever problem we're looking to solve, curiosity is the go-go juice of the universe that's gonna get you there, like, it's you just gotta
Yes.
ask questions.
You know what though? And I think what you've just touched on, going back to doctors and doctors, the good ones are very curious.
Mhm.
Right? They're curious about, well, this might be outside of my wheelhouse, but I'd like to learn more so I can better assist you. Or I'm curious about the answer too. Let me know what you find out. Or, hey, there's this conference I heard about, and they might like, curiosity is a huge part of not just education, but intelligence, if you ask me. Because when you turn off curiosity, you're not learning anymore. Maybe you might memorize some stuff, but you're not really learning. And part of taking your power back, right? If we were to take it back to even like just the first question, like how do you take your power back? Be curious. Because once you start pulling on those threads and asking those questions, you start getting a lot of answers. They may not be the answers you need, but at least through the process, you're learning a lot, you know?
And they also may not be the answers that you want. Sometimes they're the answers of like there's certain things that maybe you don't want to give up, but your body's saying that's not a fit.
Okay, so fun fact about me being allergic to everything. People are like, I have no idea how you can survive without eating insert item here. And I'm like, do you ever have the feeling that somebody's taken a nail and they're hammering it into your skull? And they look at you and they're like, whoa. And I'm like, imagine if the next time you ate that, someone hammered a nail in your skull. Would you still want it? I'm talking full on into that pain receptor spot of your brain, not the part of your brain that doesn't feel pain, but no, like the pain receptor spot. So, like, we're giving you an extreme dose of pain. Do you still want it? And then they kind of go, no. And I'm like, see, it's not that hard to imagine now, is it? There's so much pain involved. You look at food and you go, hard pass. Like, I wouldn't want that. And what's interesting too, so and maybe this can even help someone. I grew up what you would call an extreme picky eater. Looking back, hindsight being 2020, it could take up to an hour for me to finish a meal. I hated eating as a child. Like there were certain foods where, yeah, like I'll eat that happily. They were heavily processed. That's probably why I'd eat it happily. But most foods I would not want to eat. And I ate everything with a fork and knife. I deconstructed all food. Like I would literally like nitpick and tear food apart and do this whole thing. Like it was a whole almost like ritualistic. This is how bad it
Mm.
got. And knowing what I know now, it was just child logic. My brain was just like, I wonder if I do it this way, if maybe it'll hurt less. No, it didn't. Let's try this way. No, still hurts, right? Food was always pain for me, always, right? And that's why, number one, I never force anybody to eat a bite, except for vegetables. Like we had that moment. But for one of my kids, the first time I had served like ground beef made at home, he eats it, takes a bite, and he literally just spits the whole thing out. And he starts scratching at his tongue. And I thought, man, that must taste horrible. So I wait a while. I don't serve it for a while. I serve it again. Same exact thing happens. And I was like, clearly he doesn't like that. And mind you, so he is the kid who suffered a lot of mental consequences from what their mother did to them. And he was unable to communicate what was going on. This was like age 6 or 7 at this point. And so his doctor was awesome. She was like one of the good ones. And then she retired after that. And I was like, no, come back. Cause the new one was horrible. But she was great. And he was having other issues. And this was like a year after the beef incident. And I explained things to her, and she helped me order, like, every test under the sun. She even did, like, a sleep study to see if we could figure out what was going on with him. Everything came back perfect. Then she says, "Let's just order an updated food allergy test just in case. Like, he's not presenting with anaphylaxis, which is what he had to milk." She's like, "Just in case." Turns out he was also allergic to wheat and beef. Beef was what he was spitting out at the dining table. And that's what it was like, well, I'm not gonna make him eat something that he thinks tastes so horrible. And the thing is, so for someone like me and people with complex cases, etcetera, it is not uncommon for us to hate the taste of things we are allergic or intolerant to, even if we're not diagnosed. So for
Mm.
me, believe it or not, most food, and this will probably be so wild to people like, wait, 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 you're a chef and you're gonna tell me what I'm about to tell you. I actually find the taste of most food to be repulsive. I think food is disgusting. If I could get away with never eating again, I'd never eat again. Like, I really don't like food. There are, like, maybe 3 foods I actually like, that I'll eat without complaint, right? And mind you, I only have a handful of safe foods, and even of my safe foods, I don't even like some of them. I'm like, "Do I have to eat that? Could we maybe, like, not eat that?" You know, like, I
Mhm.
really don't like food. I just don't.
So why
And
did you become a chef then?
oh, you're gonna love this. My kid with food allergies was being bullied at school because his food was different, and I was like, "I'm gonna show those kids." And so that's actually what launched the bakery. It was a free from bakery, and yeah, it kinda all went downhill from there. There
Well, you
was a
got that
point.
spite.
Yeah, it was that spite. I was like, "I'm gonna show these little kids what good food looks like." Right around the same time, though, is when I was given 30 days to live, and so, like, I think it was, like, maybe a year before that, and after surviving, I was like, "Okay, all the things that my kids and I have been through, I'm sure the information in my head would help someone else." And I didn't really set out to be a chef, but I did, like, start working on a cookbook just because I understood restricted diets, like, really well. And it all just sort of spiraled, like, a lot, and I had some good friends who were, like, managers at grocery stores, and they were like, "If you did it such and such, we would sell it at our store and blah, blah, blah." Like, there was just, like, so much going on all at once, and that's kinda what pushed me in that direction. So here's the funny part, and I think you can appreciate this. So when I was 8 years old, I sat myself down, and I had a very stern talking to with myself, and I said, "You're 8 now. Now's the like, you are not messing around anymore. Like, now's the time to grow up. You need to plan out your entire future." So at the age of 8, I had decided which Ivy League universities I was going to go to and what I would major in. I was going to Harvard Law. I was like going to like Yale for medicine. Like I knew what I was doing at age 8. Okay. And I knew that the first thing I was going to do, I was going to be a lawyer, a child advocacy lawyer, so that other abused kids could have a voice. Like I knew that that was really important to me. And then I knew that, well, okay, first I was going to be an athlete, which by the way, spoiler, was not. I am not built like an athlete at all. But I was like, "I'm gonna be a famous athlete. I'm gonna make a truck ton of money. That way I can afford to pay for law school. And then I'm gonna be a child advocacy lawyer. And then when I retire from that, I think I was gonna be about 32 by the time I was done being a lawyer. I would then transition to med school and I was gonna be a brain surgeon. And then after being a brain surgeon for a little while, I was going to open up a small shop and sell stuff. Like I wanted to like have like not like a hobby shop, but like just, a little specialty shop and sell stuff. And then I was going to retire by 40. Like that was the plan at age 8. I was like, this is the plan and you need to stick to it. And I did everything I could do to stick to that plan. And what always makes me laugh is how I think the saying is something like humans plan and God laughs, or I don't know, something of that nature.
God laughs when you make plans.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. Um, what's funny is, okay, I did not become an athlete, like, at all. But did I become a child advocacy lawyer? No, but do I advocate for kids every day? Yes. Did I become a brain surgeon? No, but did I basically specialize in medicine? Yes. Right? Like, did I open up a specialty shop? Technically, yes, because I had that bakery for like 5 solid years. So it's like sometimes we know deep down inside like what we want to do or what we're capable of or, what
Mhm.
interests us, whatever the case may be. And even though you may not end up where you think you thought you'd be, you still end up somewhere really cool. Uh, every time I tell people about this, they just like they're overwhelmed emotionally. There was this girl when the bakery was opened, and she had never had a birthday cake before. So her mom found out about my bakery. My bakery was literally the safest one in the state of California for people with food allergies and restricted diet. It was gluten free, top nine free, truly corn free. There were options for paleo, all sorts of things, dedicated equipment, amazing and raw material sourcing. Like everything was so super safe,
Where
right?
was it located?
San Francisco Bay Area. Yeah.
If only
Yeah.
it had been in Los Angeles.
I know, right?
I would have been
Actually,
an
LA had
avid
some pretty good
customer.
LA had some good stuff. Seattle has some good stuff. Nobody took it to my level, but I mean, you guys still had some good stuff down there. I bet you like Erewhon Market, right?
Yes, yeah. And actually, one of
I'm
my
fa
friends here in outside of Austin is opening up her own celiac gluten-free bakery.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's cool.
Rockin' donuts. Like, finally, I get a donut.
So this girl had never had a birthday cake before, and her mom found the bakery, calls up. Mind you, like the mom tried to make other stuff. The mom just couldn't bake to save her life, like at all. But they couldn't purchase a cake. And so the girl, guess how old she was going to be?
8,
12,
12.
and had never had a birthday cake. Now, this is something most people take for granted. Could you imagine never having birthday cake? Literally your whole life until age 12. So I'm like, okay, let's go big with this one. I said to the mom, we're gonna do a candy overload cake. And she's like, what's that? I'm like, do you ever see those cake competitions where they like make the cake and then they put everything on top? She goes, yeah. I go, we're gonna find every safe option for her in terms of like cake or whatever. And I'm gonna make some safe cookies for her, safe donuts. I made like these little baby donuts and dunked them in chocolate and all this stuff, right? And we're gonna put it all on top of the cake. And the girl's favorite color was blue, so I did a blue ombre with the frosting. And day of, the girl and her dad come to pick up the cake. And I just slide the cake over to the little girl and I said, happy birthday. And she's in shock. And she's like, that's mine? And I'm like, happy birthday. That's your cake. And she goes, I can eat that? And I'm like, yeah, now you can eat this, but let me tell you how to take care of your cake. Because once you slice into it, this bad boy is so heavy, everything's going to fall. And so I'm telling her how to take care of her cake. And the dad is on the verge of tears because his daughter finally has a birthday cake. That's the kind of work I do. I believe in empowering people and showing them that I don't care what the restrictions are. We're going to figure this out, right? There's a little girl, and her parents lovingly call her my twin because her diet was so restricted when she was younger. We actually were able to pull off like a fake cookie and a fake ice cream because she was tube fed. I was like, let's figure out how to transform this formula into something else because I wanted this little girl to experience temperature and texture. And so we figured it out, right? Like, I don't care what your limitations are. I don't see the world through limitations. I only see possibilities, right? That's what really sets me apart from different like recipe developers and advocates and stuff because a lot of them they develop for their own needs. If I only made recipes I could eat, I wouldn't have developed over 1,000 recipes, done over a dozen cookbooks and all the things, right? So I don't do anything for me, which is actually the superpower because I look at the world and I go, well, I can make this, 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 and this with these few ingredients and then this, and this. People come to me all the time. It's like one lady, she had joined the Raise platform. That's my membership website. And when you join, there's a new member form. And it's so funny because people always say, I had no idea a real person would reply to me, even though I make it very clear. I literally tell them, fill out your form and I'll reply to you. And people still say, I had no idea a real person would reply. So if you fill out the form, which she did, I literally will reply to you. And if you, it says like, what can I help you with right now? Her daughter had been diagnosed with like a whole bunch of dietary restrictions and then had like a medical condition on top of it. And they had sent me like a photo of her paperwork. And I said, can I just hop on a call with you guys? Cause sometimes I literally do that. Like I will give away consults for free. Like I will see your case and I just go, it's going to be so much faster if I just hop on a call and brain dump on this person. And so then I said to the little girl, she was like 8 or 9. I said, what do you actually want to eat? I could tell you all the foods I can make you. But what do you actually want to eat? And the little girl says, I just really want a pizza. So I said, okay. And I looked at her list and within a mere seconds, I started telling the mom how to make pizza. It was a very non-traditional pizza with kind of a weird crust. Like you had to like, suspend your like the belief for a little bit. And you had to it was an experience.
Yeah.
But I got that little girl pizza. That's what I want people to understand. You can have whatever you want if you're willing to put in the work. If you're willing to take that radical responsibility and reclaim it all for yourself. Like if you're just waiting on some third party company to make specialty food that only you can eat, guess what? You're going to starve to death waiting. It's not happening. But if you're willing to put in the work, you can have anything. In fact, I was on a call with a footballer of all things. So I'm talking to an American footballer and his daughter has food allergies and we were chit-chatting and it's really cool. He's actually played in the Super Bowl, so it was really fun.
That's
And
awesome.
I said to him, people don't realize you can actually make ice cream with 2 ingredients. All you really need is water and maple. And I guess his kids could hear our conversation because it was like on the computer. And his kids all stopped and looked at him. They were like, Dad, we need this ice cream. And he was like, can you really make ice cream with just 2? I'm like, dude, water and maple syrup. That's all you actually need. As long as you have a proper, expensive, high-end ice cream machine, you can get ice cream. And that's the thing I try to teach people. If you have the right tools and the right attitude, we only need a few basic things to blow your mind. And you will suddenly have food that you didn't think was possible. And you're going to sit there and say, pardon my French, but damn, this is delicious. And it's going to be like revolutionary in your own home. And
Oh
it's
my
going to be
gosh.
better for you because I really push organic on people. I'm like, here, get the organic version.
Same,
Yeah.
same. Even my 8-year-old goes to his camp and he's like, "Is the pizza organic? Is this gluten-free?" And I'm like, "Honey, no, they're ordering you Domino's. Like, it's gluten-free, but babe, that's not organic. You can have it
Right.
this once."
Yeah. Yeah. It was, you'll love this. Mr. Low No Sugar, when he was 7, I think he would have been 7.5 at this point. I had been teaching him how to read food labels and decode them. It's one thing to read them, it's something different to actually know what it means. Because you might read tapioca syrup and just think it has something to do with tapioca starch. No, that's a form of sugar, right? And I needed him to understand all the different ways that sugars and chemicals hide in food because he couldn't have them. And so I was just teaching him how to read labels and things. I would take him to the grocery store and teach him how to read it and what it really meant. And he's very intelligent like me, so he would pick up like he sucks up information. It's beautiful. It's so great. And so one day his older brother, who has food allergies, his teacher went out of her way to find a special treat for him. And it was so sweet, and he could actually have it. It was like some conventional jelly bean or something like that, but it was safe for him. So each of my kids had their own snack bins. Everything was color coded, their names were on everything. So he has this in his little bin. So Mr. Low No Sugar goes and takes this treat, walks up to me, all the sass in the world. He's like, did you see this? And I'm like, yes. He goes, kid two had this in his snack bin. Did you look at the ingredients? And I'm like, well, yeah, but his teacher got it and he could have it. He goes, such and such, more sugar, such and such. That's a chemical, such and such, more chemicals. Why is this in his snack bin? And I literally was so torn because I'm like, my goodness, it's a safe treat for one kid and it's a terrible treat for the other. And it's like, what do you do? But it was just so amazing that he was like schooling me, right? Like telling me how to read a label for once. It was such a turning point for us because I'm like, okay, I guess everybody's never getting chemicals again because the sugar police are going to be after us all, right? 7.5, like schooling me and telling me that kid two can't have his treat because there were sugar and chemicals in it. And it's just always this moment that makes me laugh because, like, if you teach your kids and you train them up, they can do amazing things. And that's not to say, like,
Mhm.
I don't want someone listening to think I'm saying kids should not have like cookies, cakes, and candies. If if you heard that, you missed the part where I said I operated a bakery. Who do you think ate those baked goods? Okay, my children. Now, it was organic, it was non-GMO, better for you ingredients, blah 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 blah, all the things. But they had their cookies, cakes, and ice cream, don't you worry, okay? Remember that part where I said they got dessert every day? Every day for a bite of vegetables? My kids did not go without. They just always had the better for you version,
Yeah.
right? And I leaned into unrefined sweeteners. So I used like maple or date. We didn't do coconut because their father was allergic to coconut. And then one of my kids turned out to be allergic to coconut. So I don't do coconut. But I believe that you should balance food, you should balance all things. It's kinda like how, if you get so obsessed with your diagnosis, you know what happens? You miss out on life. Now, if you're knocking at death's door like I was and they're like, "Hey, you're gonna be dead in 30 days," obviously you need to obsess on your diagnosis, right? But if it's like you're working on it, you've been on this journey for a year, and you're, like, hyper obsessive and you're missing out on these great moments with your friends, what are you doing? Like, you've disconnected somewhere. You missed something. Like, cool, you're working on your health, but you can't neglect the other areas either. If you don't take a well-rounded approach, I don't know that you'll get far enough, you know?
I completely agree. I think that there is like learning for me early on with my children, I had to learn with my first that a diagnosis is not a death sentence. And being able to navigate choices, lifestyle, and look at like how can we really create a really holistic, healthy, long-term lifestyle that defies what traditional medical wanted to say as a limitation. It's so powerful. Your low to no sugar reminds me of my son because he's like, "Mom, this had 17 grams of sugar in it." Like, like I just
Yep.
it's just education because when you start to realize like how much crap people are actually, whether you have allergies or not, how much sugar people are putting into their bodies on a daily basis. Like, I live in Texas now, and I'm like, y'all don't actually drink coffee. You drink dessert.
Whew,
Like, coffee is a coffee with maybe some milk in it. Like, for me, it's almond milk, but like, it's not a three pumps
right?
alternative sugar, like lavender. I'm like, no, that is nothing but chemicals and crap in your body. Like, for me, I have noticed a behavioral difference in my children if they have dyes, if they have gluten, and I'm like, "Well, do I want to navigate?" And I've seen it. I saw it at one of my kids' dance classes. Another mom was letting her kid, like, snack on some gummy bears, and then she started bouncing off the wall, and I was like, "Well, no shit, Sherlock. Like, gee, I wonder why." In our society, we are so conditioned to think that just because it's in a grocery store aisle, it's actually okay, healthy,
Yes. Oh my
consumable
goodness.
for human consumption.
Oh, that is the worst thing you could ever think, honestly. It's the worst thing you could think.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
is
I
literally
I
like avoid as the middle of the grocery store as much as possible,
I
I've
have
just
this
found.
wild dream, and I wanna figure out how to do it. I know it's gonna cost me a pretty penny, but I have this wild dream because I am a firm believer that we vote with our wallets. So,
100%.
imagine this. We assemble an army of 2 to 3 million moms, and they all join an email list and an SMS text list just in case email providers try to screw us over because you know how they get sometimes when there's money involved, right? Every month, this army of 3 million moms boycotts one product or one company or one whatever, and we give them a list of what to buy instead. It's literally a swap this for that message. Do you know how much damage we would do to big food by choosing the better option and literally force their hand to get them to stop putting crap in the food. See, the thing is a lot of people meet me and they sometimes think they misunderstand me. They think that I am so anti, like boxes of cereal or whatever the case may be. I think cereal's awesome. I buy my kids organic cereal with like less than 5 grams of sugar per serving. Thank you very much. I think cereal's great. What I think is a crime is that they put these bright cartoon characters on these boxes. They put them at a child's eyesight level purposefully. These are engineered stores and engineered products. We have proven beyond a shadow of any doubt scientifically that these hyper processed foods are engineered to hijack your brain and screw you over. They also give you false senses of hunger, make you eat more, which makes you spend more, but also makes you gain weight. You're less healthy over time. We are pumping them into the most vulnerable of bodies. See, that's what I'm against. If we could get 3 million moms to not buy, say Frosted Flakes, but get the organic whatever instead, guess who's going to be pissed off? Kellogg, because I'm coming for them. If I can get 3 million moms every month to vote with their wallets, we would see real change within a year. I guarantee it. Because the worst part is they already have the formulas that don't have the crap in them. They just choose not to sell them because they know, well, some people may not buy it if we do this. And people don't realize, and this goes back to what you said, assuming that it's safe for you. I am not exaggerating when I use the word engineered.
What's engineered? 100%. Same with,
When,
social media algorithms are $1 trillion engineered
oh, yeah, that too,
attention
right?
span
Exactly.
depleters.
Well, when you look at what happened to the nicotine industry,
Mhm.
guess where their scientists ended up once cigarettes were like the bad guy?
Yep. Big food.
They ended up in the food industry. And instead of engineering nicotine sticks for you, they started engineering food. And what do we know about cigarettes here in the United States? They're engineered to hook you. And what do we know about food here in the United States? It's engineered to hook you. At some point, you have to recognize it is your responsibility to understand they are trying to hook you. And what I like to remind people is this: none of this is your fault. None of it. You did not ask for this. You were simply born into a broken system. Our parents, if you want to hold someone, accountable, hold your parents accountable. Because when all this was going down, guess what they did? Nothing. They were like, oh, it's in a grocery store. Oh, let's keep buying it. Little Timmy can have his, Fruit Loops or whatever. Like, they didn't read labels. They didn't do a lot of things. But at the same time, if you want to hold them accountable, you have to hold their parents accountable
Mhm.
because they're the generation that ushered in all the advertisements and convenience foods and microwaves and, insta foods. They said yes to that. And at the same time, just how I told you it wasn't your fault, it wasn't their fault either, because they had the appropriate idea that why would our government harm us? Why would our government allow for this harmful food to be sold to me? Why would these companies purposefully engineer something that they know is going to harm me in the long run? They wouldn't do that. That would be unethical. That would
Diabolical.
be deceptive. That would be so wrong, right? They wouldn't do that. So it wasn't their fault, and yet it was. It wasn't your parents' fault, and it kind of was. And it wasn't your fault. And I'm not saying that it is your fault, but at this point, you've got to be willing to take responsibility for it all and say, okay, I was born into this broken system, and now I have a choice. I can either stay in the broken system or I can get out of this broken system. And I'm not going to lie to you. I may have owned a bakery, but I don't believe in sugarcoating. It is not easy to get out of these systems. Once you're in them, man, somebody once told me, this was years ago, once I figured out what was wrong with me, I was convinced I could help so many people. I just knew it. I was like, I'm going to change the world. People are going to find out what I went through, and they're going to be like, oh my goodness, I can do that too. And they're going to join me. Okay. Guess how many people joined me? Zero. Like none. Nobody joined me. Nobody. Back then, at least. And I was like, I don't get it. Why aren't people learning? Aren't they listening to me? And someone told me something so simple and so true, and it still sticks with me. No one changes unless it hurts enough. There are some driven people in the world, like let's say 5 to 10%, who will naturally change. They will do what they need to do, right? For everyone else, if it doesn't hurt enough, and that's physical pain, emotional pain, financial pain, if it doesn't hurt enough, they just don't change. It's like, let's just keep same old, same old. status quo. So if you're listening to this and you're thinking, it doesn't quite hurt enough yet, that's cool. You don't have to change. Just know, open eyes, what you're signing up for, right? What does it
Mhm.
look like 5 years from now if you don't change? 10 years from now if you don't change? There was this really interesting lady online. I don't know her, but I caught a bit of her story. She is extremely healthy, right? Like athlete level healthy. And she got diagnosed with an aggressive cancer, and doctors were shocked. And she was talking with one of them and said, how does someone like me even get a cancer like this? Because remember, up to 85% of cancers are completely preventable through diet and lifestyle. And so the doctor was honest with her. He said, this cancer started when you were a child. For the way that it is now, like this started when your parents were making all of your dietary choices for you back then. That's when this kind of cancer starts. He says, you're not the only one going through it right now at your age. We're actually seeing a higher rate of diagnosis of people in your specific age group with this specific type of cancer. And we know it starts in childhood. And I was like, whoa. And see, the thing is people don't realize what's happening to their children. And the reason why is because children's cells multiply, divide, and replenish themselves at such a rapid rate. Unless your child has an extreme medical condition in their early childhood, like under 10 type of thing, you don't see what's going on inside because their body is just rapidly doing all the things, right? Whilst their body is rapidly doing all the things, it's also rapidly developing something that's going to be visible 20 years from now. And that's a serious responsibility that I don't think a lot of parents realize that they have. I know for me, I saw that in my own kids. I knew that that was a responsibility because of my own medical issues. So I
Mhm.
made it a point. And the thing is did my kids love everything? No, of course not. They're kids. And when they were adults, they were like, see you later. We're going to In-N-Out Burger. I'm like, okay, but take the organic low, no sugar ketchup with you. Right. And one of them actually like habitually takes the good ketchup with them everywhere all the time. And they'd be like, "We'll see you later. We're gonna go do this." And I'm like, "Okay, but order water. Don't get a soda." Right? Like you have to find that balance because once they're adults, they're gonna do what they want. And all we can do is provide guidance. And I know for like one of my kids, they went hog wild, man. When they were in charge finally, and they had a job and they had a car, they were like, give me the gummy bears. I'm like, but okay. And so then I took the route of like cool parent. I was like, so I noticed you've been buying gummy bears. I'm headed to the co-op. You want me to get you some organic gummy bears? I'll pay for them. And they would be like, yeah, okay, I'll take free gummy bears. So it was like, I knew, like, I can still get them, like, the organic stuff if I just get the organic gummy bears or the organic chips. And suddenly my house went from loads and loads of vegetables to loads and loads of organic potato chips because I had to meet them in the middle, or I knew, like, they're 18, 19 with cars. They're going to do what they want. So
Mhm.
I can help them through this phase. And what's interesting is, take hope because they come around eventually. The kid who was like hitting those gummy bears like there was no tomorrow, like within a couple years, suddenly was like, so I think I'm going to order one of those grocery boxes online where they like send you the meal kit. And then all I have to do is like cook it up. And then they'd be like, I think I want to learn how to make steak. Show me how to make a steak. This kid would suddenly want to do better,
Yeah.
right? There comes a point where, you know, there's a Bible verse, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he's older, he won't depart from it. And it applies to a lot of things in life, right? This kid swung back eventually, right? Like they do, but it's like the Amish. They have Respringa where you go out into the world and you get to sow your wild oats and then you come back and you have to
Yep.
decide if you're going to stay Amish or you have to stay in the world. It's like one or the other. It's kind of like that, right? Like my kids, they went out for a minute and they bought non-organic oats and then they came back to the organic oats because they were like, I feel the difference. Like I'm feeling it now and I'd like to go back to the way it was. And I'm like, welcome home, right? Like
Prodigal
this
son.
is yeah, it's a thing. And so like I think it's so important. Like I feel good about the choices I made for their food, health and wellness, etc. when they were growing up. Could I have done things differently? Sure. Could I have done some things better? Absolutely. Like we can always look back and nitpick and stuff. But if I were just to like bell curve it in terms of like what health and wellness looks like for their current age groups compared to the rest of their peers in the world, they're like sitting pretty in the 85th percentile. They're way up there, right?
Yeah.
They got the good stuff and they were homeschooled. They have critical thinking skills. Like they had it good, like, they're fine. They're gonna be just fine. So, I think as parents, we have to decide, what kind of future do I want for my kids? And it's not easy. It's not easy, especially if I mean, I want to say that one kid is easier, but it's kind of not if you're like really in for, I want them to have the best options available to them in the long run. And it comes with a lot of sacrifice. Like people don't realize that. Like I didn't do much for myself ever when my kids were growing up. I didn't buy stuff for myself. I didn't do a lot of things. But they had like, the best food. They had like all the extracurriculars. I knew what I wanted for them, and sometimes that's the hardest choice that we can make as a parent. Is just like sacrifice, right? For some parents, that looks like one parent staying home and one parent going to work, and you guys doing like the financial pinching until the cows come home. It looks different for every family,
Mhm.
and ultimately, if you're in that tough spot, the best piece of advice I can give you is simply this: it's not forever, right? Like, I think sometimes we get so bogged down with like, "Oh, but it's so this or it's so that." It's like, it is right now in this moment, I hear you, but it doesn't last forever. Like these hard moments, they don't last forever, but you know what else doesn't last forever? That stage where your kid thinks you're cool and they wanna hang out with you. Or that time where you have lots of influence over your child, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but in a good way. The time where you can shape them into people with strong character and strong morals. That doesn't last forever either. So are you gonna use that to your full potential or are you gonna squander it? Oh, man, we could talk all day about this
We could
because
talk all day because I
I
think
bet you and I are on the same page about so much. Oh my goodness.
you
Yeah.
and I very much align in many, many ways, and I think that that all stems from the core value of radical responsibility, of taking
Yes.
ownership of your life, of not being a victim of your circumstances or the hand of cards that you were dealt and just saying, "Oh, it is that is what it is, and it's now my responsibility to deal with it, alchemize it, fix it, shift it, whatever needs to be done, or just live with it as that's part of your dharma. It's part of your mission."
Yeah.
And I would love to pivot into a little bit of rapid fire to wrap this up.
Okay, let's do it. I love rapid
Okay,
fire questions.
cool.
Okay.
Who is your favorite character in a book or a movie and why?
Unfortunately, I don't consume a lot of media. When I was given 30 days to live, I was like, "Yeah, I'm out. I don't wanna waste my time ever." In fact, people hate watching movies with me because I fast forward through them. I'm like, "Okay," and we just jump through. And I'm like, "Okay, great, we got the gist of it. Now what?" So, I'll just say, like, I'll just pick Jesus, I guess, because he was, like, super cool way back in the day, and I think about certain things, and sometimes I wonder and I'm like, "Lord, did you have ice cream? Like, was that a thing back then? Like, did you get to play in the snow?" Like, I think about that kinda stuff. So, I'll just go with Jesus. Next.
Cool. What person, alive or alive and in their time, would you want to trade places with just for a day to experience life as them?
Oh, man. Can I pick Jesus just for the superpower element and just be
Yeah.
like, boom, walk on water and have that experience or something? Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah, I'm going like
Jason.
I don't wanna be, like, blasphemous or anything, but that'd be really cool.
No,
If I
several people
couldn't
have picked Jesus.
okay, yeah, like, if I couldn't do that, maybe Albert Einstein. Somebody with, like, an extreme intelligence that's not a standard form of intelligence, where you just get to see the world a different way for a day. I think that'd be really cool.
As a successful entrepreneur, what is your money routine?
Money routine? What do you mean?
CFO, bank account, how often do you check it? Like, do you do you
I'm
do your
terrible.
bookkeeping? Do you
No.
like
Well,
have a
okay.
light a candle and manifest?
Okay, I do my own taxes because it's pretty easy. Everything for me is really straightforward. No, so I just kinda keep a running tally in my head, like, I know what's there. I know what can be spent, what can't be spent. I keep expenses to a minimum. Yeah, like, I'm really financially, I think I'm just really simple. Like, I'm also everybody's bougie friend, so take that with a grain of salt. Like, I didn't know I was bougie, I honestly did not know, and then I had a lot of people pointing it out to me. They were like, "No, no, no, you don't get it. You really are, like, super bougie," and I was like, well, that's my bad. I didn't mean to be, but apparently that's just who I am. And then one time I said to one of my friends, "Listen, you can't be upset with me because God made me this way."
Love it.
Yeah, I'm your bougie simple friend, if that's possible.
That's I identify so much with that.
You get it, right? Like, we love the finer things in life, but we don't need them every day. We can live simply. And then, like, every so often just be like, "Let's take a bougie little excursion." You know?
'Cause you can. What do
Yeah,
you define to be your kingdom?
probably my brain. There's so much you can do with it, you know?
Yeah.
Untapped potential. I'm going with the brain on that one because there's so much you can do with it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Lastly, what does it mean to crown yourself?
I think just changing the world for it to make it a better place. Like, it goes beyond being a good person, right? I think in life, we have so many opportunities to do good in the world. And I'm not talking like being a socialist or something like that. I'm not talking like down that road, right? Like, people need to work for themselves, etc. I'm talking more about, you go to the grocery store, you see someone struggling with something on a shelf and you're tall enough to reach it. Can you just go help them, please? Don't make them ask the person who works there or look for something. Like, just go reach it for them because you can, right? Or, you see someone and you just give them a smile because you can, right? Do like the good things in the world that literally just make the world a better place. Because I am so convinced if everybody were doing that, we'd have like lower rates of crime. Because, like, would you really commit a bunch of crimes if you're trying to be the good in the world? Like,
Mhm.
would you hold someone in like at gunpoint and rob them if you want to be the good in the world? No, you wouldn't, because you don't want that happening to you, right? Like I think if people were just the good in the world would be good. And so to me, I think it's the ultimate form of like just caring for people, even like your own kids, right? Like, how can you show your kids a really great form that you care for them? It's to make their world better, right? Like, I think we should all strive for that.
Yes, agreed on all fronts.
Like, I know it's idealistic and maybe a bit naive, but I just feel
Don't
like
think it's naive. I think it's as a warrior for possibility and for the power of humankind,
yes,
I think we have that asset within us. We just have to choose it. It's
yeah,
like Luke
yes,
Skywalker. Suddenly Darth Vader's like, "Come with me to the dark side," and Luke's like, and we just got to have that moment where we're like, "No, cut my arm off." Like, "No, I'm not going with you." Like, "No,
yes, you get it.
get thee behind me, Satan."
Yes, yeah. Okay, see, you get it.
I'm just
You
like
get it.
truly just choosing. I had a client years ago. His whole family had perished in the Holocaust. We were talking about the power of a smile, and he said, "Kim, you could change the world with a smile." He said, Imagine if more people smiled at Adolf Hitler. Do you think he might not have done what he did?" And I was like, "That's a great perspective." The power that we have to influence for good, that is the radical responsibility. And I love that that is what you are leading with, that that is what you are championing in this world as the allergy chef. So, where can we find you? How can we work with you? How can we download all of your recipes and your cookbooks and get all the goodness that is you?
I would say go to theallergychef.com, the word allergy, the word chef. If you go to theallergychef.com, there's links to everything. There's links to the cookbooks, there's links to social media. I mainly do like Instagram and the YouTube thing. So you can find me there at the Allergy Chef. There's on like the cookbook website, you can also do like consults if you want one-on-one support. There's free recipes. There's a huge knowledge base at theallergychef.com. In fact, if you are struggling with being newly diagnosed, I've actually put together a free newly diagnosed e-course as well as an actual manual. If you ever wanted to know everything you needed to know the day you were diagnosed, go there. It literally under resources, newly diagnosed, click it, jump in. I give you everything you need. Um, and then I do have a membership website if you want more recipes, but there's also like a whole bunch of free recipes on the main website too. So it's theallergychef.com is like your gateway to everything that I do.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Kathlena, for being a part of this podcast. I am just so honored to have met you and to continue this friendship and see where it goes.
Right? Because I can tell we're gonna be having well, you'll have coffee, I'll just have water because I can't drink coffee. I'll pretend it's coffee though. I'll change my mindset. I'll just be like, "I'm having my coffee with you, and we'll do it." Yeah.
Yes, agreed. As always, my fellow sovereigns, own your throne, mind your business because your reign is now. See you next week for the next episode.